Hey, look at that, a Star Wars. So I have this grand vision with my YouTube channel that I hope that I can make it kind of almost like a living version of my Instagram, which I started in 2014, and it was basically created so I could have a safe place to be able to geek out, a safe place where I could share things that I enjoy, things in my life that are meaningless in the sense that they have no impact on anything of importance. They don't impact the life of my family. They don't impact my life in a way, it doesn't impact being able to survive or live. But they are things I enjoy. And so I created the KSGeekMan or KSGeekMan Instagram for that purpose. Now, when I did that in 2014, I just began to discover that there is this wide, vast community of people that are all looking for the same thing. They're looking for a place where they can talk about pop culture. They can talk about Star Wars specifically, with talking about things that they enjoy, their collection, the movies, aspects of the films, where they can actually kind of commune with others who have the same desires or same interests. So I started my account on Instagram in 2014 with that purpose. So with the YouTube, I have this vision, this idea of being able to do the same. So one of the things I have thought about doing, and I've done periodically on my Instagram a few years ago, was I kind of did. I think there might have been maybe one or two posts with this hashtag, but in reality, I think I was the only one that was really posting this. I started this in like around October or so, the fall of 2014, and I remember it vividly because I did a car video proclaiming to people that they needed to express their adoration for the prequels. And the reason I did was because the trailer for The Force Awakens, the teaser trailer, was getting ready to come out, and people in the media and people, and when I say media, I mean, the people that were like the entertainment magazine people, podcasts, people on TV, people who had not really been following what was going on with Star Wars from 2005 leading up to 2014. And I was frustrated because in those conversations about the upcoming release of The Force Awakens, people were wanting to throw the prequels under the bus, which was extremely frustrating to me because, as the hashtag I created, I don't know how else to say it without saying that, but I'm just going to say it knowing that there were potentially other posts that were out there. But I love the prequels, and so I created a video in the fall of 2014 telling people to express the same thing and tagging their love for the prequels with that hashtag, and it got some results. Some people were expressing that. So during that time, I decided, you know what, I'm going to talk about, I want to fight back a little bit this notion that the prequels were just awful and terrible storytelling. And there might have been some things that execution-wise were not fantastic, but I believe that the storytelling in the prequels was pretty layered and pretty deep. And so I thought, you know what, I'm going to focus in and hone in on those things. By the way, I'm doing this video in my car, so my apologies if you're hearing car noise. Hopefully you can hear me over it. If not, I'll redo this whole video and at some point. Anyways, one of the aspects of the prequels that I loved, and I posted this on my Instagram account back in 2014, and I've reposted it since maybe 2 or 3 times, was Qui-Gon Jinn. This particular specific character is something that I think was a great addition to Star Wars lore. Now, my understanding, if I remember correctly, is that there was not, in the original drafting and conception of the Phantom Menace, there was not a Qui-Gon Jinn character per se. And it kind of, that character kind of evolved as George continued writing. And I could be wrong, but this is just something I remember from some of the making of stuff, that eventually Obi-Wan, the character of Obi-Wan, evolved into something younger, and then they split off his character into Qui-Gon and then a younger Obi-Wan. And then, and which I think was brilliant, because I love the Qui-Gon Jinn character, because right out of the gate in the Phantom Menace, you see both Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon as they're approaching the Trade Federation blockade of Naboo, and they get on that ship and wait in the little waiting room, the conference room, for Newt Gunray and the other representatives of the Trade Federation. Obi-Wan says, he says the Star Wars line, I have a bad feeling about this, right? And Qui-Gon says, don't center on your anxieties, focus on the here and the now. And Obi-Wan says, but Master Yoda says I should be mindful of the future. And he says, Qui-Gon says, but not at the expense of the moment. And the reason I love how this whole thing kicks off, and when I say thing, I mean the whole entire saga kicks off with this statement. And I think it's something that a lot of people kind of missed at the time, was here is a teacher who is contradicting the character we've all known and loved for 20 some odd years before, because we all, from the original trilogy, because we all were familiar with Yoda, but he was contradicting a teaching of Yoda while teaching Obi-Wan, which was a huge thing that I think if you blink, you kind of miss it. He took a moment to explain to Obi-Wan, hey, focus on what's going on now. Don't just think about the future, which is an important thing, that an important lesson for Obi-Wan and for people. I think that's a great lesson that can be taught, is don't focus on the future or fear about the future at the expense of where you're at and what you're doing. So that right out of the gate was something I loved about Qui-Gon. The other thing about Qui-Gon Jinn was his kicking and bucking the religious system of the Jedi Order, or the system that they had kind of been creating. And I think that George had kind of created this, painted this picture of a Jedi Order that was no longer in touch, or was losing its focus and its center, its purpose and its calling, because they were so wrapped up in their man-made tradition, their man-made, their way of doing things, their order. They were caught up in their order versus the living force, which was something that was a new principle and a new thing that George introduced into the Star Wars saga, and that was taught through, brought to us through Qui-Gon. So Qui-Gon was somebody who was also influenced by Count Dooku, who was his teacher, and he saw that Count Dooku was someone who also was dissatisfied with the Jedi Order in its place in the political spectrum. I don't know what the new canon is doing, honestly. They may have bucked this, and I don't know. That's something I gotta figure out or wrestle with for me personally, because I'm still in the pre-Disney era understanding of this stuff. But I'll check out the Count Dooku stuff at some point, because I do love prequel era, and I do like and appreciate the fact that Disney is trying to mine that, as long as they don't mess it up. But anyway, my perspective of messing it up. So other people, some of y'all may be like, hey dude, they're not messing it up, it's amazing. Anyway, so with Qui-Gon, I just love the introduction of this character, because he's someone who is not satisfied with simply being on the Jedi Council, which Obi-Wan says, if you would just do as the Order says, you'd be on the Council. And he says, I will do as I must. He doesn't care about notoriety, doesn't care about being on the Council if it means negotiating or surrendering what he understands and believes to be truth. which I think is a great lesson in itself for life. You know, that oftentimes we find ourselves in positions and places that we are challenged or tempted with being put in positions of influence or positions of power. And we do that sometimes at the expense of our core beliefs and our core values. So that was something about Qui-Gon that I think was a great picture being painted for how the galaxy was kind of set. And the Jedi Order was obviously caught up in stuff, and they were kind of so caught up in their place in the Republic and its political system, and that they had kind of lost vision of their core values and beliefs. And that was evident in the fact that they did not see the Phantom Menace coming. They did not see Darth Sidious arriving on the scene, and he took complete advantage of that. But Qui-Gon, I think Qui-Gon, and if you watch the Clone Wars Season 6, I think you learn that, Qui-Gon had a lot more, he was in touch with a lot more than the Jedi Council was. So, anyway, I really think that the Qui-Gon Jinn character is a fantastic addition to the saga, and I was sad to see him go, but I think that obviously he needed to go because for Sidious to be able to accomplish what he needed to get rid of Qui-Gon Jinn, because he was probably way too powerful and really saw even more than what the Jedi Council was able to see, because of his ability and his understanding of being in touch with the living force. So anyway, that is an aspect of the hashtag of I love the prequels, is my love and adoration for the character of Qui-Gon Jinn. Not to mention he's masterfully performed by Liam Neeson, the great Liam Neeson. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video, and don't forget, you can find me on Instagram at KSGeekMan. If you're a person that enjoys this kind of stuff, let me know in the comments if this is worth it. Otherwise, I'm just going to talk to myself, and I don't care, because I always love talking Star Wars when I can, especially these kinds of things. So yeah, let me know what you think. Give it a like, because that helps me with my YouTube, and leave a comment and share it if you don't mind. All right, let me know what you guys think. Peace out. See ya.